let me ask you this, because we're less than a month away from the NFL draft. I know you love the NFL draft and covering it for years, prior to taking your role with Fox. When do you get kind of sick of the draft? Is there a point where you're like, all right, just get the draft here, let's get this thing over with? Or are you just a fiend for it all the way up until the draft is over with?
I will say, I feel like this year for me personally is a little bit different just because I haven't covered the draft this year the way that I normally do. Normally in a past life, I would start researching and talking to people and watching film and stuff in December, early January.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to Brian Broaddus. When you start watching players at Christmas, you're kind of burned out you can burn yourself out by combine time if you're not careful. But so this year, I didn't really even get interested in the draft until after the Super Bowl. So it's been a little bit of a delay for me. I would typically say right around the start of April is when teams are going to bring in their 30 visits, the 30 players that they are most intrigued by, that they want to get a closer look at and bring to their facility and kind of wine them and dine them. That should be happening nowish, if not now, then next week. And when that's over with, it's time to go. There's nothing else we need to talk about. There's nothing else we need to learn. The last couple weeks of April just serve as rumor mongering, what's gonna happen to this pick?
It's lion season, man.
I saw there was Will Levis was the latest guy that he's having rumors talking about about how arrogant he is or whatever. And that might it might be true. Who knows? But this is April is kind of the month when all of the work has been done and now it's all just hearsay. So yeah, right around now is when I'm ready to stop talking about it and just get it over with.
David Helman of FOX Sports joining us here on the Get Right. I had to stop down real quick, David, because Chris saw this look on my face. So I told you how the Thunder were down by a point, with about 5 seconds left. Jalen Williams hit a tip shot off of offensive rebound at the buzzer to beat the Detroit Pistons 107-106.
Wow. That's not what the Mavericks needed to have.
So things going from bad to worse from the Mavericks tonight.
Great.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was tough sledding tonight because, Oklahoma City gets a tip-in basket at the buzzer to win at home against Detroit to keep their season alive.
David.
Yeah, go ahead.
Help us with this. Before you came on, KG had a segment.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Tell him the theoretical about moving up to get Bijan Robinson. And let me explain why we were saying this. What built up to this scenario, what's your 2 cents, is we're giving the Cowboys front office their props because they're actually doing things in March. They never do it before. They've put all their ducks in orders. Now in the draft, you can actually do some things if you want, or just play close to the. You got options now. You're in good shape. So there was a theoretical of moving up to get Bijan Robinson, and I was like, yeah, we know running backs aren't supposed to be highly drafted, but this isn't just a running back. This is a running back that could be the third most talented player in the draft. Tell David the scenario again.
So the scenario, real quick, that Bleacher Report puts out. I don't recommend you read it because you do better work at Fox. But the scenario they put out is the Cowboys traded the number 26 overall pick and the number 90 overall pick in the third round to the Packers in order to move up 11 spots to number 15 to go get Bijan Robinson from Texas. Are you moving up to go get Bijan Robinson, David Helman?
If they did that, I would lose my mind.
See?
That is.
See there?
That's what KG said exactly.
That's one of the more asinine things I've heard in a while. No. I hate trading up anyway. And it can work. If Patrick Mahomes was a trade up, sometimes it works beautifully and you look like a genius. Brett Veach will be a legend in Kansas City forever for swinging that trade to get Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying it never works, but it's very risky. And if you're getting rid of draft capital, I hope you feel good about the guy that you're going to get. And more often than not, it's not going to be Patrick Mahomes. It's going to be a guy who is fine. So I'm a big believer in having as many swings of the bat as possible. And then even if you are going to trade up, I hope to hell it's for a premier position. I hope it's for a quarterback or an offensive tackle or a pass rusher or a cornerback, because if you get that right, you change the makeup of your team completely. And look, I mean, I think the world of Bijan Robinson. He's an amazing player. He's the best running back to come out in at least 4 or 5 years, probably the best since Saquon. But, I mean, a running back's just not going to change the trajectory of your franchise. It's just not going to happen. And the shelf life is short. It's dependent on too many other variables. If Bijan were to fall to 26, I'm fine with it, depending on who else is available.
That's what KG said.
I really don't think that's as bad of an idea as a lot of people want to make it out to be, depending on who else is there. That's fine. But trading up half of the round to get a position that at the end of the day is just not all that valuable. It's just not. That would blow my mind, like I said, and not in a good way.
Okay, what would make you upset more? The Philadelphia Eagles taking Bijan Robinson at 10, or the Cowboys passing Bijan Robinson up at 26 and the Eagles taking him at 30?
I'll say the second one. Just, I mean, if the Eagles want Bijan that badly, and I don't think Howie Roseman would do it. I think he's a very analytically minded GM. I think he thinks that he can find production later in the draft. Miles Sanders was a 3rd-round pick. Shady McCoy, my colleague, was a 2nd-round pick. Like, you don't have to spend a top 10 pick on a running back. So I don't think he would do that anyway, but if they think that highly of him, that they're willing to spend a top 10 pick, that's a hell of a lot better than the Eagles drafting an all-pro corner or a double-digit sack guy. I would much rather that. But if the Eagles were to steal Bijan Robinson at 30th overall is a steal, especially for a team with as many strengths as the Eagles have. A team that is really not drafting for need anywhere. That would be a bummer. But if Bijan is there at 26, I mean, what we know about the Cowboys front office, and I mean, like I said, he's a hell of a player, but he would also sell jerseys. He would also be in a lot of advertisements. I have a hard time believing the Cowboys would pass on him unless something insane happened. Like, I mean, I can't even think of the player that would have to fall. It would have to be like Jalen Carter for them to not take Bijan Robinson if he's there at 26, in my opinion.
What do you think of this theory that the teams who are playing coy about Lamar Jackson, everybody claims they don't want him, that they wait, the ones who are playing coy are smart to wait until after the draft, because if they were going to trade draft picks for him, it would not include their draft picks for this year?
That's an interesting thought. But then I guess at that point, the Ravens, like, what's the Ravens' incentive to move him at that point? Like, unless the Ravens manage to draft a quarterback in this year's draft who can step in and start right away, which I guess that's not completely impossible. But, I mean, if you get through the draft and you don't have a chance to improve your team this year, like, what's the Ravens' incentive to not just say, okay, fine, well, we'll see you when the season starts, and if not, you're going to miss out on however many $1 million for every game you don't play? Because the list of people that have skipped out on a franchise tag is very, very short. Not very many people are willing to, set $2 million on fire every week. So I don't see it. And if the Ravens don't get it, if it doesn't get done before this draft, I think the Ravens' incentive to play ball kind of goes out the window. I think the crux of it is just that nobody wants to pay Lamar Jackson a fully guaranteed contract.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I'm fascinated to see where it goes. I don't know the answer, but if it doesn't, I mean, if a trade were to happen, if it doesn't happen until after the draft, I don't see what the Ravens' incentive is to get it done, because they can franchise tag him next year too.
Mm-hmm.
If I were the Ravens, I would say, cool, we'll play hardball with you through this year, and then we can do this all over again next year. We're not going anywhere. You're the one that needs the money.
Mm-hmm.
All right, before we get to the fun stuff real quick, your favorite non-Bijan Robinson running back in this draft class is who, David Helman?
Man, I wrote about this today because I want to state this clearly. I think we're doing a ton of hand-wringing about a guy that's not even going to be there. I mean,
I agree with that.
Like, it's very rare for a running – I mean, the first running back of the year, I know last year Breece Hall was the first back taken and he fell to the second round. But when there's a running back prospect this good, they don't wait around. Like, even Josh Jacobs and Najee Harris went higher than 26.
Yes.
And then you look at Saquon going number 2 overall. You look at, Todd Gurley went top 10 back when he was a rookie.
Zeke was number 4.
Like, if Bijan Robinson is still there when we get into the 20s, I'll be very surprised. So I think we're kind of overblowing it in the first place. That said, so I look at it, and on top of that, there are other positions I would rather the Cowboys draft in the first round than a running back anyway. But, man, there are a lot of guys in that day 2 range that are very intriguing to me. I rewatched Tank Bigsby, the Auburn running back, today. I don't think he gets enough credit for how good he is because Auburn was terrible last year. They were a mess of an offense. He's a big dude. He's like 6 foot, 215. Runs well for a guy that size. He's very physical. And then a guy I didn't know much about until I started watching him, the guy out of Pitt, Israel Abanikanda. Holy hell. He's fast. He's physical. He's big. I saw you never want to trust pro day numbers too much, but he had his pro day at Pitt today, and he put up some very impressive times. So those two dudes, they are both big physical backs, which is what the Cowboys are looking for. And I think, you could – I don't know if they would wait around to the third round. I think you'd probably have to draft them in the second round. But I'd be happy with either one of them. They're both very impressive.